Good evening, Browns fans, and welcome to OBR Weekly. My name is Barry McBride. I'm the web dork of the OBR. And right now I'm solo. I'm not sure where Fred is, but I'm sure he's making his way in, and we'll see him shortly. There he is. He's popping on the screen right now. Let me introduce the legend. It's Mr. Freddie Greetham. How you doing, Fred?
I don't know. My wife made me some supper. I was trying to get a few pieces down, but I knew you'd be panicking if I wasn't on here.
I was full-fledged panic mode, trying to carry an hour of conversation by myself. That would have been a little bit tricky on my penultimate show. I'm being told that my mic is a little echoey. I can get confirmation from my producer. I don't know if that's me or StreamYard or whatever, but I will do my best to rail it back in. So, Fred, first day of training camp today. We have heard all kinds of things from Bitonio, Garrett, and Denzel Ward, who they had at a second podium, untelevised, so no one could really see it. What's your big picture view of the first day of training camp? Did it seem like business as usual, or did it seem like it was a little bit more intense than usual? How did it feel standing on the sidelines?
Oh, it seemed a little lighter from the, an hour and 10 minutes, but I didn't like it being so late in the day. Stefanski said that it's because they did their conditioning test yesterday at 3, so they wanted to give them 24 hours to recover. So, and then after practice today, another 24 hours for tomorrow, and then they'll get back to more of the 2 o'clock-ish type of thing.
Yeah.
Except Saturday, they're going to do 9:30 in the morning. It's no pads again, same thing. It's up tempo. They are definitely, the players talked about that, wanting to be more up tempo, everything intentional, doing everything for a purpose, not just going through the motions.
Right.
So from that aspect, it's harder to cover. You got 2 fields going. You got 2 quarterbacks on 2 different fields. So they're getting more done. They're getting more reps and so forth. But until they put on pads next week, it's hard to really still see, the quarterbacks in the 11-on-11 or the drills are not getting hit. They won't get hit in the pads, but that'll make a difference, I think, on receptions, the receivers, knowing somebody can pop them and different things like that. So it's really, we're going through the glorified touch phase still.
Yeah. Per usual. What will be interesting will be those matchups against Carolina and Philadelphia coming up here in a few weeks. Those will get a little bit more intense. I think we'll learn a little bit more there. You're going to be down in Carolina for practice. Is that right, Fred?
Yes. They practice on that Wednesday. I think it's the 3rd or whatever, the 6th. Then they have an off day on the 7th, and then they play on Friday night, the first preseason game in Carolina. Mm-hmm. So actually I have a daughter that lives in Charlotte area, and I'm going to take my 3 grandsons to the game as fans. So I'll be down there covering the practice. Probably won't be covering the game too much.
Yeah, enjoy one with the grandkids, that's for sure, Fred. And we are planning on having some coverage from Philadelphia as well, as we get our East Coast correspondent involved. So we will have some coverage throughout training camp. Today in the Insider Discussion Board, we did sort of a live stream of comments from Fred on the sidelines and video and tweets and all kinds of great stuff. If you're a VIP member of the OBR, try and join us tomorrow. We're going to try it again, see if people find it, like it. And if so, we'll keep doing it. So some of the news that we got today, Fred, or actually last night, was about some roster moves. The Browns put Hall and Watson on the PUP. David Bell went on the non-football injury list, and they cut a wide receiver. Today they added KJ Henry, a fifth-round pick by the Commanders in 2023, who has bounced around the league a little bit since then and wound up on Philly's practice squad last year. I know what the answer to this question is, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did Kevin Stefanski have any more information about any of those injuries for Hall or Watson or Bell today?
Well, you know the answer, and you were right. No. He said on Bell, he's rehabbing well. He was asked because all we knew is he dislocated his hip in the second game last year, and he had surgery. And he didn't come to any of the offseason on the field. He was rehabbing the whole time. Everybody assumed it was the hip. They put him on the non-football injury list. So he was asked about that today, and he said he can't talk about it. So who knows? You know, I don't know if I think if you're injured last year, that it doesn't start over again like a non-football, because Hall's still on the injured list. So he evidently injured something else sometime. So
yeah, it's a
I
mystery.
think this is not good news for him. He better get out there quickly because not that they have a lot of wide receivers, you know, proven, but you just can't miss practice, you know, nowadays, you know, when there's 13 guys at the position, you know.
Yeah.
As far as Hall, he wouldn't give a timeline on when he'll be out there practicing. You got the idea. I thought there was a video of him coaching or doing something with kids and running around. I didn't really look at it, but it was alluded to. But he said he's doing nicely in the rehab, but he didn't really want to get into any of that.
Right. Yeah, Hall
he was even asked for an update of Deshaun Watson, and he said there's no update, no other injury. He was asked if there's any other injuries on players, because this is before practice, anybody that won't be out there, and he said no other injuries that he's aware of. Well, then 3 guys weren't on the field. David Njoku, Jordan Hicks, and Jerome Ford. I had heard from somebody that Njoku's father passed away this week, so he would be away a few days. So he was excused for personal reasons, and Jordan Hicks was also excused for personal reasons. But there was nothing on Ford. Kind of reading between the lines, it must be a minor injury that they held him out of practice because he wasn't on the field. And, of course, there's no injury reports at this time of the year. And that's why there's no information from the coach, because they don't have to put out an injury report until the first week of the first game. And so I joked to a couple of reporters. I said, okay, we'll go out to there and we'll see 10 guys on the bikes, you know, not practicing. But it was only 0 because I did forget in their new facility, they put the bikes in the building and they closed the door so you can't see in now. So I don't even think we'll be able to know who's not practicing other than the roll call. So no updates on any of that foolishness.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty typical. Pretty typical. You don't get information. You do get to talk to Andrew Berry tomorrow at I believe it's 1:30, somewhere around there. Maybe he'll provide all the answers.
He's pretty much like Stefanski. He talks around things too. But today, the preemptive Stefanski made a statement before he started about Quinshon Judkins, but it was basically of no statement. He just said that we're monitoring, collecting information, but they have nothing to say other than this is very, very serious to us.
Yeah.
He said, I'm sure Andrew Berry asked him about this tomorrow because, there was how come Mike Hall last year practiced and different things. And it seems like with Judkins, you're keeping him away. Is it all because of the contract? What? And so he deferred everything to Andrew Berry. So that's kind of what will be the topic, I'm sure, tomorrow.
Yep. So we'll get more on that tomorrow. Well, more equivocation.
We'll also talk to
tomorrow.
Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett are going to talk tomorrow as well before Andrew Berry. So, and the two rookies, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, are scheduled Friday to speak to the media. So that's kind of the media interview schedule right now.
Okay. So we'll get to hear from everyone in the quarterback rodeo over the next couple of days, plus Andrew Berry, plus Stefanski again. But again, the sum total of information received regarding the injured players and Quinshon Judkins is A, they're progressing well in their rehab. There's no other information. And B, we're gathering information, but we're not going to share any of it with you. So that's the end of that. Let me tell you what, if you are in the chat room, and there are a couple, 3 dozen in the YouTube chat room, I'm not sure how many in Twitch, a lot of people watching on X, but if you are one of the clever folks who have made your way into YouTube or Twitch chat rooms, we are waiting to hear from you. All kinds of questions or anything you want to talk about, we will respond to here at OBR Weekly, because that's what we do. That's what we do, man. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the quarterback battle. Stefanski, again, really didn't say anything in the press conference, but you offered some information, Fred, to our VIP subscribers as it was happening. Can you recap now sort of what the reps were among the, not the, he had 8 reps, he had 7, but just, basically what happened during the 7-on-7s and the full team drills?
Well, it's very, very similar kind of continuation of the off-season program, the mini camp. They did the 2 spot with 2 quarterbacks on 2 different fields, Pickett and Flacco together, Sanders and Gabriel with the 2s and 3s. So I happened to be over where Sanders and Gabriel were. They do individual drills where they hand off to the running backs or, that kind of stuff. And Pickett was the first one up, like he was in the offseason program. When they went to the first 7-on-7s, Flacco was the first up. He did well. It's just a passing thing. He was 5 for 5 in what I saw from the other field, just trying to keep track and what other colleagues said. Pickett was after that. And then on the near field was Gabriel first, then Sanders. Then when they finished practice, they only went 1 hour and 10. Flacco was not in the team. This is the first team, at least now, 11-on-11s. Offense, defense. Flacco did not participate. Pickett was the first quarterback up, so he was with the first team going against first team defense. I think I had him with 6 plays. He handed off the first 2. He scrambled on the 3rd one. He threw a short pass to DeAndre Carter on the 4th one. He handed off to Dylan Sampson on the 5th one, and then he threw a nice pass to end over the middle down the field to Jerry Jeudy. I got that on video. It's on Twitter. Fred Greetham 9.
Greetham 9.
Then Gabriel came in. I think I had him with 5 plays. He scrambled on the first play, handed off the second, incomplete pass on 3rd, handoff on the 4th, And then on this last play, similar to Pickett, his last play was a touchdown pass to Gage Lavardane, but Lavardane was wide open. I didn't see, but it looked like the defender fell down, or else nobody covered him because he was 15, 20 yards behind everybody. And Gabriel might have been sacked if they were allowed to sack, but he underthrew the pass, kind of threw it off his back feet, got it down there, but Lavardane had to wait on it like a center fielder. And then he still was that far open that he went for the score. Then Sanders came in for the last. I had him with a short pass to Cade McDonald, handoff to Sampson, incomplete, handoff to Pierre Strong. And then his last pass was, it looked like he'd have been sacked. It was one of them where they were all around him, and then he shovel passed it to Monty Marshall. So I don't know if that counted, but none of them were that impressive, as far as, but it was only 5 or 6 plays in the team stuff. So it's hard to watch everybody, defenders, but, you can tell some of the guys that were out there in the first group. But Stefanski warned us before practice. He said with the quarterbacks, they're going to roll it every day like they did in the offseason. So you're going to see different combinations. After these 4 practices, Saturday would be the 4th, they're going to evaluate, talk about it, and, and then see if they change things up next week. But I will say, again, Flacco in the little bit of time looked pretty sharp. And I think that's going to be how it's going to be for a while, is he's been in the offense. He's been through this stuff so long. And I just think that they're going to have to really have some impressions on the other. I did see when they lined up to do the 11-on-11 the first time, they just kind of went down the field, kind of a dry run. Flacco was the first quarterback. He handed it off. Second one was Pickett. He handed it off. Third one was Gabriel. He handed it off. They didn't do a fourth. The rest of the guys ran down the field. And then they turned around and came back, and it was Pickett first, Flacco second, Gabriel third. To be honest, I lost it in the shuffle. Maybe Sanders was in there on the third. I didn't see that, but there's so much you're trying to watch and keep track of. But the big picture is, yes, they got started, and tomorrow's going to be much the same, I expect. And then I think through Saturday, fans are allowed to come Friday and Saturday. Those are the first 2 open practices to the fans. You got to have a ticket, I believe, to get into those, just so I'm correct on that. I think there's only 8 practices. I have it in the story, the dates, but they're all right up front. I think mostly before they even go to Carolina, like 2 this week and maybe 4 next week or something like that, 4 or 5. So, it will be a lot happening because they got to pivot and get ready for the starting, the first game. Stefanski was asked about that. He said he's got a plan penciled in, but anything can happen. He was asked about playing time in the preseason. He said it remains to be seen, ask about first team reps, and he said that'll change tomorrow. And so there's really no concrete definitive. I think we'll know next week if anything is starting to crystallize. But it's the pecking order to me today was the same as it's been. They had Pickett, Flacco, kind of 1A, 1B, and then Gabriel and Sanders. Yeah.
That's what it seems to be. It's what I would have, thought going into the practice. But appreciate the recap. Short practice, small sample size for each quarterback. Not too much we can read in, but the reps were sort of, first, second, third, fourth, and sort of the way that you would kind of expect these days. Let's go to our questions from our assembled fans in the YouTube and Twitch chat rooms. And let's hit up what they got. World's Fastest Fat Man wants to know, so when and where is the OBR camp get-together going to be? The parties in the old days were legend. And I hate to tell you, WFF, but the Browns and the NFL have really played hell with our parties. The draft party, now they do first, second, third round on Thursday, Friday, and all that's left on Saturday when we could get people together is the, all the day 3 picks. So that's kind of been destroyed. And now there's this ticketing situation around training camp. It's not like everybody can congregate together in a day. You have to win a lottery to get training camp tickets. What I would suggest doing is going into the water cooler in whatever day you're going there, asking if any of your compadres are going to be there that particular day. Because right now it's like next to impossible for us to do something like the first, second day of training camp because we don't know how many of our people can get tickets. It's crazy. It's crazy. But hopefully that answers your question. Probably not the way you wanted. Let's go to this one from Fumble 13. He says, I hate the helmets. Hate. What do you guys think? Well, I'm not an expert on sartorial significance or eloquence or whatever, elegance. So I don't have much of an opinion. Do you have an opinion, Fred, on the helmets?
Well, I'm not going to say much because my mom taught me not to talk potty talk. But here you got the Browns that have been a very bad team that some people would say they've been in the toilet for a while. And you bring out a brown helmet with an all brown uniform, and you're sponsored by Dude Wipes, a flushable cleaning substance, I believe, to use in the restroom, amongst other things. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the all brown, and it looked kind of cool in the picture, but I just see this being a joke they didn't need to have around the league, showing, the Browns sponsored by Dude Wipes and all brown uniforms.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just what come to mind.
Yeah, well, it sort of writes itself, I guess. But, if they win, if they're a winning team, they'll look good in just about anything. My
attitude on the uniforms is I watched this team in the 60s when they were all, the plainest, most vanilla uniform you'd ever want to see. And it was iconic when you won. And nobody cares what they look like if you win. I mean, that's exactly the bottom line. I mean, it's nice to have this and that, but they spend so much money on marketing and alternate uniforms, alternate fields, alternate helmets, all this stuff. It's great and it sells merchandise, but just win some games and I think you'll be fine. Everybody will love the uniforms if you win.
Yeah, exactly. That's been the tough part over the last 25 years. Apparently, as they were debuting the helmets, they were on the Pat McAfee show. They were introducing them on Brown's Daily, and they had a stunt out on Lake Erie where they had this big, covered helmet, and they pulled it off, and it's the brown helmet, and yay, and whatever. And some guy fell into the lake, and it's a metaphor, I think, for the Cleveland Browns over these last 25 years or so, that someone would fall into the lake as they are debuting their helmet. But
there was nothing worse. I was at the Jim Brown unveiling of the statue, and it was unbelievable. It had a big thing, and it ended up having like a noose around his neck. Like he was. It was. It was such a big deal, and then you're like, oh my gosh, who put that together? The way it came out, it was not a good look.
As far as we know, the guy who fell into the lake is okay. He was quickly rescued by a jet skier, I believe, and leading to various conspiracy theories and things along those lines. But everybody's okay after the mishap at the helmet unveiling.
Did they do it on purpose to make it go viral?
Those are the conspiracy theories. Those are the conspiracy theories. So I don't know, wouldn't be able to tell you, and frankly wouldn't care about social media, whether the Browns are a little more successful on social media because there was a stunt. Fumble 13 wants to know, for some reason, if you're going to adopt a puppy. Any puppy adoption in the Greetham household? I'm not sure what motivated the question, but it's a legitimate question.
I think they do that out at training camp. You know, they keep a running total, how many get adopted and stuff. No, I don't think so, Mr. Fumble. We had our last dog. Kids moved on. Dog died. We kind of like the freedom of not having to have somebody watch the dog or put it in a kennel and so forth.
Yeah.
We're in a stage right now where you kind of are ready to go. Plus, I don't need a dog coming in and barking like Barry's does.
And the dog barks like crazy. Is currently in her crate upstairs so that she wouldn't bark at me continually throughout the show. So there's your answer, Fumble. No puppy adoptions happening in the Greetham household, but he has good reasons for it. Let's see what else we got here. Rodney Hilson wants to know if the QBs are basically running the same plays. I mean, it sounds like there were a lot of handoffs and whatever, but it seems pretty random to me.
It looked to me pretty much very similar, very vanilla, just kind of an entry thing. I think more than anything, today's kind of a dry run on how practices are going to be, and they'll ramp it up. I mean, an hour and 10, you're spending 45 minutes, between stretching and just going through individual drills and stuff like that. So I think it's just kind of a dry run, get them going, more tomorrow. But I mean, realistically, I don't think they're at the point where they're going to put in a different set of offense for each guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so at this point. They put in a different offense for a guy last year, and that didn't work all that well, if I remember. Follow-up from Rodney wants to know if Cam Ward is a starter for his team, the Titans. Why all the concern for other draft QBs to start for their teams? Is Cam Ward that much better that you wouldn't seriously consider anybody else in that class as a potential starter?
Well, I think you have your answer. I mean, Ward was picked first, and then nobody clamored to trade up to number 2 to get a quarterback that I'm aware of.
Right.
Who was the second quarterback taken? Was it Shook or
Dart?
Jackson Dart. I don't know if he's starting up there. I doubt it with Wilson. It's, whether it shakes out that Gabriel or Sanders starts would have to be, I think, a reversal in the organization's mind, because they drafted a guy where they thought they could. You don't draft a guy in the 3rd round and expect him to start day 1, nor do you do that with a 5th round guy. If you think they're your first day starter, you take them at number 2 if you have the number 2 pick.
Right.
And so I'm not saying they won't, but I'm just saying that around the league, the prevailing thought was it wasn't a strong quarterback class. That's why even what I was told, the Browns had that trade worked out, but the caveat was that if Tennessee, for whatever reason, didn't take Ward, the trade was off. They were taking Ward. So that tells you what they think the difference between Ward and like Gabriel. Or I don't know what they thought of Dart or who else was drafted before, but they had their evaluation. That can change. But I don't know why around the league, other ones or who's going to end up. A lot of times there's always guys in a draft class that weren't evaluated that great, kind of came out of nowhere, look like Brock Purdy or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll see. The Browns will give them as many reps as they possibly can to see if anybody shakes out of that group. Back to Fumble 13, he says, it sounds like it will be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Grind them down and run the clock, reduce turnovers, good special teams equals victories. And I would love to see some victories this year. Trust me on that. But Fred, how are they going to run a power running attack without a power runner? Or are they really even looking at a what you would call a power running attack at this point?
Well, I think that their moves in the offseason signaled that, going back to the wide zone. The offensive linemen are excited about it. They think that they can be very productive. Their moves. Andrew Berea in his 6 years at the draft or in the offseason, the highest running back he acquired was Jerome Ford in the 5th round. They went out and took Quinshon Judkins in the top of the 2nd round, 36th overall. And then they took Dylan Sampson in the 4th round, 126. Both those moves were higher than any move he had ever made. So there's no question that's what they were planning on doing. Now I think this has thrown a major roadblock in the plans because they might not admit that, but I think they were planning on Judkins being the day one starter, getting the ball 15, 20 times a game and just trying to pound the ball and use the play action pass. Doesn't mean without him they can't, but yeah, as you alluded to, Ford, we've seen him and Sampson are not power running backs between the tackles necessarily like a Judkins was forecast to be. So it will be up to them to figure it out. I just feel like with this pending suspension with Judkins, if it's 4, 5, 6 games, that could really derail him for the season because he's playing catch up then from that point on. And we don't know how long this legal situation is going to take to get settled. They can't just speed it up if the legal process, sets a date and so forth. So unless they get it settled or the recant of the story or something there, like happened with Hall, and then it's still going to have some type of suspension likely, so
yeah,
I don't know. We know what we have, or they know what they have in Jerome Ford. I think Sampson would be in there from day one. Right now they had Sampson, Pierre Strong were the only 2 out there today, along with undrafted guy Amani Marshall, because Ford didn't practice beside Judkins. So they're already getting thin. They were kind of thin anyway at running back. And Stefanski was asked they need to go get another running back. And he said, well, we'll see how that plays out. So he wasn't really, we need another guy. And I read somewhere they tried some guys out. They signed a defensive end today, so they didn't use the roster spot on a running back. So
Right. They don't seem to be panicking. It's almost like they're checking to see if they think that Ford or Sampson is appropriate for those 3rd and short situations that you would love to have Judkins for. MC Lawrence says we do need a short yardage guy, and you heard me during the summer camp special. No one else could understand me out in the audience, but because of audio issues, but you heard me, so you know what my opinion on this is, which is to go out and get Gus Edwards. But the Browns don't seem interested in anything like that at all at this point.
Well, yeah, I think those guys are more guys. They're waiting on this, little definitive situation with Judkins, maybe there's a recant in the story or it changes or something. And all of a sudden, they get some resolution. Maybe he gets a game or 2, then changes things. But I do think they will probably address this situation I don't know if it'll be a guy like you're talking about, like Edwards. There's not a long list of guys out there, so it's
No.
it's it's not, you're not looking at the top of the food chain. You're going to wait a little bit. There's going to be other guys that get cut and released or whatever, as well as guys that get hurt on other teams that'll look to sign. So I think they're waiting a little bit. Maybe they obviously know more about the Judkins situation than we do, but I don't think they're just going to run right out and sign somebody. At least that's what Stefanski kind of intimated.
You can try to infer all kinds of things from their behavior, about whether they think Judkins will get a shorter suspension or whatever. I don't think you can. You can try. I don't think you can infer anything from their behavior at this point in terms of what's going to happen with Judkins or what they know that we don't know. What you do know, as Chef Brian Kay points out, is that not re-signing Nick Chubb doesn't look very good for Andrew Berry. I think it's a worst case scenario for Andrew Berry on his Nick Chubb decision to lose Judkins so quickly.
Well, in fairness, I know they talked to him. It takes two to sign. I got the idea in talking to Nick Chubb the last year that he wanted to come back here, and I almost thought no matter what. Now, I think when it was serious for him, when they drafted Judkins and Sampson, for the reason I mentioned, they have never put that much emphasis. I mean, Chubb was drafted by Dorsey, so since Barry's been here, they haven't went up there and spent assets on a running back. So he knew those two guys they liked a lot and they're going to play. And I don't think he necessarily wanted to be the third string running back here.
Right.
Or even, or fourth when Jerome Ford accepted the pay cut. So I don't think the money, because they probably offered him very similar, because last year he got, I think, $2.5 million plus incentives and so forth, guaranteed. So I don't think he got more than that down there in Houston. I think he was offered more of an opportunity. And I saw something about Joe Mixon was kind of not practicing or get slow to start, had coming off some injury. So I haven't followed it. I don't know if he's running with the first team or what he's doing, but you know me, I wrote stories about it. I didn't see any downside to bring him back. Even with Judkins and Sampson, battle Ford for the third spot, even to start. If he is anywhere close to what he was before, he could be your lead back. And even if he wasn't, he could do what he did last year. Say what you will, but he found the end zone on the short yardages. He could have been the Kareem Hunt, 3 yards a carry, not the old Nick Chubb, but I don't, I just feel like it's a sad thing. Even a year like he had last year, which was very short, he still had enough yards that would have passed Leroy Kelly, and he could have been the number 2 all time on the Browns rushing behind Jim Brown. I know that's not how they make decisions, but it just is sad, especially the way this is playing out, because no, you said the worst thing that could happen, it'd be the best thing for Nick Chubb, but the worst thing would happen for the Browns would to see Nick Chubb running like he used to here with the Browns and doing a Derrick Henry with the Ravens instead of the Titans, or Saquon Barkley with the Eagles and not with the Giants. That's what'll really, put the salt in the wound. You see him going off down in Houston.
Yeah, well, sort of at this position, you don't want to see that happen, but you want good things for Nick Chubb. I don't know. But
I think Andrew Berry should get on the phone and see if they could bring him back, make a trade.
He'd be a hero. Everybody loves Nick Chubb. All right, so James McGee wants to know, with Ford gone and Judkins not there, who was taking first team reps at running back? Was it Pierre Strong or was it Dylan Sampson?
Well, I said it earlier. Pierre Strong was out there and Sampson were kind of alternating, but Amani,
Marshall,
whatever his name was, 39, Marshall, is the undrafted free agent from Appalachian State. So yeah, I think Pierre Strong's the veteran, so he would be kind of first up in the. I have a video out there shows you can see Pierre Strong's first one up. Sampson was the next one up. Marshall's third one up. You only got 3. So
yeah.
I would think if Ford's going to be out more than just today or two, they would go bring in another body. I mean, even if it's not somebody they are looking at serious for a roster spot, it could, John Kelly, this first time he hasn't been in camp in 4 or 5 years. I mean, he was like, it seemed like on the practice squad. In fact, I thought he was still around, to be honest. There's guys, Deontay Foreman, there's guys you could bring in. I think they cut a running back sometime in the off-season program, somebody like that they could bring back if they just need somebody reps. But if they're serious about somebody, then I think the veterans that, like you mentioned, Gus Edwards and so forth, some of them are waiting around looking for a good opportunity. Some of them aren't going to just come in to get cut in a few days. They want maybe to see if some injuries happen. And like even with the Browns, the Quinshon Judkins, they want to know, okay, he's out for 6 games. I'll come there now, whereas, they don't want to come here and then get cut and not have a chance to get on another team. So it depends on how desperate the Browns are. If the Browns feel like they're in bad situation, but so far they haven't really rushed into anything.
No, they haven't. And like I said, you could infer all kinds of things from that. But tell you what, if thanks for tuning into our show tonight on a Wednesday after a long day of practice and other chicanery from the Cleveland Browns. Thanks for tuning into the network. If you like the programming here, please make sure to check out the OBR.com website and especially our VIP premium service. VIP subscribers get exclusive access to our VIP premium forums. Ask the Insiders, where the whole gang will answer pretty much any question you have. Lane Atkins by himself is worth the price of admission. You get the OBR VIP stories. You get stuff like the live information from training camp that we did today, and all of it to support all of this wonderful free programming 5 nights a week on the OBR streaming network. So there's my pitch. And Fred, do you feel like buying a VIP subscriptions right now after hearing that?
I hope they're buying it because I'm doing a lot of toiling out there at practice in the 90-some degree heat.
There you go. There you
Even
go.
eating supper.
Reward Fred.
Fine.
Make the heat and pain go away by buying a VIP subscription. All right, let's get back into these comments and questions that we got from our group. Chef Brian K, who I think has just left the building, says if Stefanski uses Sampson right, we could get through till Judkins gets back. I'm not sure I want him back. We'll see what happens in court. Well, that's a strong opinion. We don't know the details of what happened with Quinshon Judkins beyond what was in the police report. But at any rate, is Sampson a guy who could be that every down back, Fred? He's 5'8", 200, filled that role for Tennessee last year. You think they're going to try him out in that role and just see if he can stand up to the pounding?
I think Ford would be the first guy up. He had just under 900 yards 2 years ago when Chubb got hurt. Last year, they were rotating 3 or 4 guys. So I think Ford and Sampson, between the two of them, I think they can form it might be Ford and then Sampson's more of the change of pace. I don't know if they're going to just make somebody the bell cow. I think that was really the intention with Judkins. One of the things with Nick Chubb I always complained about was it seemed like when he was one of the leading rushers in the NFL, he still would only get like 15 carries a game, and you're like, use
Right.
him more. So I certainly don't know if Stefanski has it in him to just pound it with one guy. He likes to change things up. So, I talked on Judkins. I talked to a guy who covers the Buckeyes every day and was up there today. And he said he was shocked when he heard that Judkins did what he did. Because I was like, where did that come from? And so, just by the way, in not defending the Browns, but it just seems like something here. It seems like the worst comes out with players, or something.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for them. But he didn't see that coming. He thought he was a high character guy and covering him never, when he's in college and so forth. So anyway, I don't know what'll happen, but I can see right now them going into the season, if there is a suspension, Ford, Strong, and Sampson, kind of last year's group, flipping out Sampson for last year. It was Deontay Foreman until Chubb came back, and then Chubb was that kind of the third guy.
Right. All right. Well, let's go to this question from Kelly Black. Wants to know, I saw the Browns worked out 3 players today, 2 D linemen and a linebacker. Are they still lacking in these areas, in your opinion? Well, they did pick up one of those defensive linemen today to replace the one that retired, right, earlier this year. But the fact they're looking at a linebacker might suggest that they're looking to hedge their bets in that department.
Yeah, I mean, they always want defensive linemen. I mean, Jim Schwartz plays 8, 9, 10 in a game if they let him. And they really feel that's the key to the defense. So they're always looking for those guys. The linebackers, like I said, Jordan Hicks wasn't there. They said it's personal, so you don't know what it is, if it was just a day. But they're counting on Schlesinger and Hicks being the primary 2 guys. Devin Bush and Diabate last year picked up the slack when JOK was injured. I think Schlesinger's going to do a lot of the JOK. I think they look at him having the similar style of play that JOK did. See ball, go get ball. He was a tackling machine. He led the Big Ten, led the nation in tackles. And that's why they put such a premium to draft him with the 33rd pick. So Jim Schwartz likes to play 2 linebackers. So all things being equal, I think it'd be Hicks and Schlesinger out there the most. But the depth, with Diabate and Bush, and he could be facing another suspension. He's also got some legal issues for something similar. So that's Bush. So he was practicing today. I don't think his court is middle of August or something. So, the NFL puts guys down, puts them on suspension, for weeks for domestic abuse type things. So whatever happens there could be a reason to look at some more linebackers. They have Winston Reed, who made it as an undrafted guy last year. So I don't think they're short on him. I think they're short on experience, at linebacker behind the top. Well, Schlesinger's a rookie. So you want to take a look at guys. These are guys, when injuries happen, that they call back up and sign them,
Right. And at that point in the roster, these guys are coming in at the bottom of a 90-man roster. Might be looking for special teams players as well. I know KJ Henry contributed on special teams, and they brought him in today. So, we'll see if they continue to look at players at those positions moving forward. James McGee writes, it's not a question, but I heard somebody rated the Browns linebacker core number 12 overall. Do you think that's fair, Fred? Do you think that's them being overrated, or that they belong somewhere there near the top third in the league?
Haven't really analyzed what other teams have. I know the linebacker has been kind of devalued around the league. I think it's a little high, if you ask me. Unproven. Maybe Schlesinger can step right in and hit the ground running and fill the void of JOK. If JOK was playing fully healthy, then I could see that because he was really ascending. He made the Pro Bowl, and last year he was playing better than he did his Pro Bowl year when he got hurt. Very unfortunate. So that's a big hole to fill.
Yeah.
And so that's why they, drafted Schlesinger. I think if in a real world, all things being equal, they hope this year out for JOK will heal him up and that he could return in 2026. And if they could have JOK and Schlesinger as their two backs, because I don't think Hicks would be back. He's 32 or 33. That's what they would like to see moving forward. But there's no certainties or guarantee. I don't know if JOK will ever play again. I mean, I was thinking if I was him and thinking about what happened when you tried to tackle Derrick Henry, how in the world mentally are you going to approach it when you get back out if you got back out on the field again, thinking
Right.
my next hit could be my last one or something. Then I don't want to be negative, but I mean, that's the reality. He's kind of gone through this and I don't know the extent of everything. So number 12 just seems a little high to me. Doesn't mean, if Schlesinger made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, okay, maybe. And Hicks stays on the field, but Hicks was good, but he was hurt a lot. It seemed like last year. He missed several games with little nicks and bruises. So, I think it's a little high.
Right. Well, I do like Diabete and I do like Winston Reed. So I'm starting to like their depth in that area, despite the issues with Bush and JOK. Mr. B Safe writes in and he says, I still can't believe they wasted that 3rd round pick on Dylan Gabriel. Well, the Browns really like him. Fred, he was showing up after the 2 veterans before Shadur Sanders, who had all kinds of hype in the rotations today. I know Stefanski said don't make too much of it, but at this point, all I've heard is positive things about Dylan Gabriel, despite his height.
Yeah, they do like him. I read somewhere he graded out like 98%, in efficiency of picking up plays in the playbook. That's a big deal with this team. Somebody that knows the playbook can get everybody ready, can get everything pre-snap. I've talked to people who said, no, you can't change his height, but if he was, his height, he'd been a 1st round pick. Arm, everything's there, processing, so forth. They didn't draft him to be the long-term answer, but I see a lot of a Russell Wilson in it. Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. He just happened to get in the right place at the right time. The Seahawks drafted him, but they had went out and spent a lot of money on Matt Flynn to be their quarterback as a free agent. But Wilson beat him out and he led the Seahawks to Super Bowl. So they're not delusional. They're not thinking Gabriel's going to be ready to start game 1, but they don't feel like he has to be. These 2 rookies are under contract for 4 years. That is very valuable on a rookie contract. They're going to work with both of them to develop them. And whether they decide one or both of them is the long-term answer to be the starter when it comes to next year and having a chance to draft another quarterback, if they determine after watching them a whole year of practice, and who knows how much they'll play in games, they might not have to use a 1st round pick on a quarterback, in their opinion. And they could address another need, like a wide receiver, a cornerback, a left tackle, any of a number of positions that they have expected a lot of turnover next year. So I think that if Gabriel's the long-term answer at backup, I don't know if 3rd round is too high to do that, right. But I could see that. I could see him getting a chance and making the most of it. This is one of those guys that he's been written off everywhere he's been. Browns fans know a guy like that, Baker Mayfield. he was his best when teams said they didn't want him. And you can see right now, after the chip came back after leaving the Browns, after getting moved on from Carolina and LA, he finds a chance with Tampa Bay. And now he's kind of what the Browns were hoping they were getting when they drafted him in the first round, first pick
Right.
overall. So, I don't know if it's a reach, at third. I was told that a team like the Dolphins were looking to take him, there or within the next few picks. And they liked him well enough that they didn't want to take that chance.
Well, let's end on this note. Question from Kelly. Can any of the 4 quarterbacks make the offense better this year? And they've got a pretty low bar to clear based on what Deshaun Watson did in 2024. But you think that potential is there, Fred, for one of these
15
guys?
15 points a game, dead last, 32nd in the NFL. Yeah, I said all last year, before the season started, if Deshaun Watson is just average, this team can go to the playoffs. He wasn't average. He was abysmal, historically abysmal, and the team stayed with him until they were 1-7. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but the season was over, at that point. And so I think Joe Flacco, that's why I wrote a story. I think he could immediately, we saw what happened with the offense. A lot of these guys are the same guys. You're putting him in an offense that he was successful with, and he's going to have a whole offseason under his belt, where that year he did what he did, set Browns records in 5 games, coming off the couch. He only had a week or two. And I think Kenny Pickett is much more efficient. I think the downside, most people, are worried about Flacco throwing interceptions because he takes chances. Pickett has kind of been the opposite. He's very conservative and not making mistakes. So that's why Stefanski likes him, because last year everybody was so down on the mistakes that Winston made. There was night and day. That offense was so much better when Winston was in there. He just threw the ball to the wrong team. But they moved the ball. I mean, they had a much better offense when Winston was in there. So I think that's what Flacco or Pickett can give you. I think Flacco more upside.
Well, Flacco is getting some shout outs in the chat. So maybe there is some belief that he could come in and improve the Browns offense this year. We'll see if he's regressed from 2023. I myself am skeptical about how far he can lead the Browns, but we'll see. Certainly we'll give him a chance. Fred, thank you so much for spending your day out in Berea and then hustling it over to here to hang out with us at OBR Weekly. Really appreciate your insight as always. And thanks to the guys and gals in the chat room for feeding us questions to give us something interesting to talk about. Thank you guys as well. And thank everyone for showing up and watching the show. You're all very much appreciated. So for Fred Greetham, I'm Barry McBride. This is it for OBR Weekly on July 23rd. We'll see you next week.
Thank y'all.